What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Alex Pereira's next opponent revealed. While Alex Pereira has defended his title twice in the span of 3 months, the champion and his team have made it clear that he isn't looking to take time off. Between potential title defenses and a future move to heavyweight, Pereira and his team are eager to keep the momentum going. During a recent episode of the MMA Hour this week, Pereira's coach, Plinio Cruz, spoke about what's next for the champ.
Alex Pereira is definitely fighting on the second semester of 2024, 100%.
Okay.
The next few months, they're going to come out with something. Now, we believe that they're going to make the best choice and pull whatever we have to see that is on the table. But yeah, bro, honestly, this guy is crazy. I think maybe that's why he even trained this morning. He came out of the fight, he looked at me and the guy said, listen, this was my second sparring of the camp for Perth. I want to fight on that card.
Stop.
Because he's spread that box, I swear to God. I said, no. Ed say, look, just pop the brakes a little bit.
While the expectation is that Pereira will compete against Magomed Ankalaev for his next bout, Pereira's manager recently dropped some big news on Instagram, responding to a poll that asked fans what was next following his UFC 303 win. Of all of the available options, Pereira's manager, Jorge, picked a rematch with Jan Blachowicz as the next step for Pereira. Meanwhile, Jan Blachowicz took to social media with a message of his own, writing, "I've never lost a rematch, and I won't." When Pereira does step into the octagon, he'll be doing so as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Following his win at UFC 303, Pereira jumped up to the number 2 spot on the list, landing behind Islam Makhachev and ahead of Jon Jones, despite Dana White's recent defense of Jones as the pound-for-pound king. Next, let's take a look at the MMA community reacts to Khamzat Chimaev footage. Khamzat Chimaev is back to training after recently withdrawing from a fight with Robert Whittaker in Saudi Arabia last month. While reports revealed that Chimaev was hospitalized and battling a serious illness, in new training footage shared to his Instagram story, he can be seen throwing a boulder around while shadowboxing. Fans were quick to react to the video, with one suggesting that part of Chimaev's problem is overtraining. In response to the video, the fan wrote, "That's probably the issue with Khamzat. He was violently ill, according to Dana, only a couple of weeks ago, and now he's back to training. I would assume if someone was violently ill, they would be out longer than this. Khamzat is an overtrainer in my opinion, which is why he gets ill/injured." Another wrote, "Bro's doing anything but getting into an octagon." Another member of the MMA community took aim at Chimaev for his previous withdrawals and weigh-in miss at UFC 279, writing, "Training to miss weight and pull out and not become a champion." Another member of the MMA community wrote, "The aura is dwindling. He has pulled out of half of his UFC fights. Fix the visa issues. Fix the camp issues. Buy some emergency. Take some multivitamins and fight more than one time a year." One fan suggested that cutting weight is Chimaev's biggest problem, writing, "I feel like his issue is the weight cut. We don't know how cutting to 170 affecting his body. Historically, big weight cutters like Rumble and Hendricks had issues cutting weight later in their career. That was also before IV ban. The kidneys can only take so much." While it's been made clear that Chimaev isn't retiring, so far there's been no word as to when he'll return to the octagon. Next up, let's take a look at Michael Chandler gets roasted by UFC fighter. According to Michael Chandler, the UFC has offered him a title fight against Islam Makhachev in October. Despite that, Chandler has kept his sights on Conor McGregor, suggesting that instead of him fighting Islam Makhachev for the lightweight belt in October, he and McGregor should compete at the Sphere if McGregor is ready to fight on the September 14th card. In response to Chandler suggesting that he passed up a title fight for the McGregor fight, Rafael dos Anjos wrote, "How much is the opportunity to become a world champion worth? For some of us, there is no price on the UFC belt. Mine is certainly not for sale." Chandler should stop his "see you at the top" motivational speeches. It's embarrassing. In response, Chandler wrote, "Cool story. See you at the top." The reply resulted in Chandler getting roasted by RDA, who responded writing, "I've been up here, buddy. Haven't seen you yet." The way UFC veteran Matt Brown sees things, if Chandler was in fact offered a title fight, then he would be wise to accept. He spoke on a recent episode of The Fighter versus the Writer.
It doesn't add up at all to not jump on this opportunity straight away. And maybe I'm betting Chandler's already made up his mind and he's doing the Islam fight and he's just talking to Conor now, or, just kind of poking Conor a little bit, just letting him know, something like that. But it wouldn't make any sense not to do this. Michael Chandler needed Conor. Yeah. Now he's got a title shot. Now he doesn't need Conor. Get the title shot, bro. Conor. Go.
Despite many fans being frustrated by McGregor's withdrawal, Alex Pereira recently defended McGregor's decision to withdraw. In response, McGregor reposted a screenshot of Pereira's quote, writing, "Real recognize real. Excited to secure my new date. As to when the UFC announces a new date for the fight, only time will tell. Next, let's take a look at Sean O'Malley posts funny skit for Merab Dvalishvili fight. So far, there's been no word from the UFC on a potential date for a fight between Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili. Despite that, the pair have continued to take shots at one another online, with O'Malley recently posting a skit in which he can be seen pretending to drill with a child-sized training dummy. In response to the video, one fan wrote, "That's not Merab. Merab is way smaller." Another joked that the fight may play out just like the video, writing, "There's a good chance this is exactly what we're going to see." Another wrote, "It's funny as hell that this is exactly how Merab has fought his previous opponents, lol. Hope the UFC books this sooner than later. They're taking too long." Dvalishvili posted a funny skit of his own, accusing O'Malley of ducking him with a video of someone pretending to be the champ. The video was just one of several the machine has made recently with someone pretending to meet O'Malley while he waits for the UFC to finalize a date for their fight. Next, let's take a look at UFC Fight Updates. On the heels of this weekend's UFC 303 card, the UFC has booked 4 fights for the UFC 305 card in Perth on August 17th. Without any further ado, let's dive in and take a look at today's UFC Fight Updates, starting with a flyweight bout between Kai Kara-France and Steve Erceg, which will see Kara-France look to snap a 2-fight skid that most recently saw him drop a split decision to Amir Albazi last summer. On the flip side, Erceg will be looking to bounce back from a loss to Alexandre Pantoja back in May, which marked his first loss inside the octagon. Junior Tafa is also reportedly set to fight Walter Walker in a heavyweight bout that will see Tafa look to bounce back after a loss to Marcos Rogerio de Lima in February, while on the flip side, Walker will be looking to bounce back from an April loss to Lucas Prochazka, which marked the first loss of his professional career. The card will also see Jack Jenkins look to make a successful return to action against Gavin Tucker after suffering an arm injury against Chepe Mariscal back in September on the UFC 293 card. In the case of Tucker, he'll be looking to snap a 2-fight losing streak, in which he was most recently submitted by Diego Lopez last summer. Last but certainly not least, Josh Culibao is reportedly set to fight Ricardo Ramos in a featherweight bout that will see Culibao look to snap a 2-fight skid that most recently saw him drop a split decision to Danny Silva in March. On the flip side, Ramos will be looking to snap a 2-fight skid of his own that has seen him submitted in back-to-back fights. Next, let's take a look at Dan Ige reveals shocking UFC 303 timeline. When reports began to circulate online Saturday suggesting that Dan Ige would be stepping in for Brian Ortega on just a few hours' notice to fight Diego Lopez, many members of the MMA community were understandably skeptical. While we've seen fighters step in on short notice prior to the weigh-ins, having a fighter step in to fight on a card that's already underway was uncharted territory. During a recent appearance on Michael Bisping's YouTube channel, Dan Ige opened up on the events that led to him stepping in on short notice despite the prelim card already being underway.
4 p.m. I trained the day before, I trained that morning. I was recovering, getting ready for Monday, just getting my body. I was getting a deep tissue massage and had 10 missed calls. Literally 10 missed calls from Hunter Campbell, Ali, he's not even my manager. People are just trying to get a hold of me. My mom, they somehow got a hold of my mom, my wife. My wife comes up, they're like, dude, you're getting like SOS alerts. So I'm like, what's going on? And finally, Ali calls me right there. I answer the phone. They're like, brother, Ortega's out. There's an opportunity for you to fight tonight.
According to Ige, he was initially confused by the situation. However, after talking things through and frantically packing his bags, Ige and his team were en route to T-Mobile Arena. What fans didn't know at the time, however, was that the UFC actually needed the governor of Nevada to sign off on the situation, given that Ige hadn't weighed in on Friday prior to the event like every other fighter. While speaking on an episode of SiriusXM's MMA Today, he went further into detail about the situation.
Will it ever happen again? Because the stars, listen, they had to align perfectly. The way this all happened, not only I had to get commission approved, I was licensed in Nevada. I had my medicals done because I'm fighting in 3 weeks and I had fought in February. And the governor of Nevada had to sign off on this. This was no just let me just jump in there. Dude, this was serious.
Given the number of moving pieces that had to come together for the bout to get finalized, we may very well never see a fighter step in on several hours' notice again. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at Jorge Masvidal reveals UFC return plus Wonderboy fight. Jorge Masvidal's retirement was short-lived. After retiring inside the octagon following his 4th straight loss in April 2023, Gamebred then announced that he was coming out of retirement less than a year later. While fans assumed he'd be returning to the octagon, Masvidal wound up agreeing to fight Nick Diaz in a boxing match that is set for this coming weekend. Despite that, the original BMF still has his sights set on an eventual return to the UFC. During a recent interview with Shaq MMA, Masvidal revealed his plan to box Nick Diaz and then return to the UFC, leading to him also name-dropping Stephen Thompson as a potential opponent.
Definitely. I always wanted to get a rematch with him. And outside of the cage, since I met him, since before we were fight, I had so much respect for Wonderboy, how he carries himself, who he is. He's actually good, positive person, out to do good, family man, just a great guy. You can't find anybody to talk bad about him. They'll say he owes money, that he's a shady person, So I really respect Wonderboy. So I would love to break bread with him and definitely run it and, get in there and just give it all we got.
The pair notably fought back in 2017, with Thompson picking up a unanimous decision win. Given that Wonderboy has been looking to fight a fellow striker, it'll be interesting to see if the UFC tries to bring Masvidal back to book a rematch between the two all these years later. Alex Pereira confronted Jiri Prochazka at the airport after their fight at UFC 303. Jiri claimed that Pereira was using black magic to win his fights and urged him to not use magic during their fight. Alex addressed this with Jiri. Here's what he had to say.
Even though the detectives and everything like that. Well, I don't ever get wrong from Prochazka. You guys are both men of God.
Colby Covington exposes Nick Diaz. On a recent podcast, Colby Covington said that Nick Diaz turned down a fight with him in 2021 and is scared of him. Here's what Colby had to say.
I think the UFC just knows that they can't match that up. I mean, that's the biggest mismatch in UFC history to give me a guy like Nick Diaz. So, it wouldn't be doing, the company any justice to put some guy that's over the hill and past his time versus, the guy that's in his prime and the best welterweight on earth right now, Colby Covington. So, it's unfortunate. I want big fights and, he's a big name, but, maybe if he goes out there and gets a win, we can do business. But, I don't think that hasn't been in the UFC's plans as of late. So, the Colby Covington does what the UFC wants.
There was a fighter altercation at the UFC PI between Manel Kape and Muhammad Mokaev. Gene Silva, Manel Kape's teammate, claimed that a week before Mokaev's fight, Kape headbutted and elbowed him at the UFC Performance Institute. He said, Manel Kape hit Mokaev here outside the gym a while ago. Bro, he caught Mokaev at the entrance here at the UFC PI. He headbutted him and elbowed him in the street. He opened Mokaev's head a week before his fight. He's a psychopath. The Russians here, bro, they didn't even help. They just watched Mokaev take it. Then Mokaev said, I'm gonna catch you. He said he was going to slap Kape in the face. Then Kape saw Mokaev and Mokaev wanted to apologize and Kape said, apologies won't be accepted. Now you'll have to do it. Then Mokaev took a step back. When I went down and opened the second floor, Kape arrived and headbutted Mokaev and elbowed him. Mokaev fell down to the ground, then the Russians just watched. Top comments. Those people trying to say Sean was picking on the guy are casuals. The dude came to him asking to spar and not hold back. LOL. Strickland haters confuse volunteering to take a beating knowing he will stop any time you quit with being bullied. Ian Gary is such a waffler. That performance against MVP was atrocious. Not particularly a fan of Islam, but people calling him scared for not wanting Dustin again is total ish. He fought Volk twice, didn't he?